Hi, I'm Trevor Smith. Welcome to this bite-sized training film on the SBI Feedback model. SBI is short for Situation, Behaviour, Impact. The model is great for giving clear and specific feedback that leads to behaviour change. One of the most important things you can do as a manager or leader is to help your people develop. It's also true that most people themselves want to improve their own performance, but often are not supported with the right feedback. However, giving feedback in the correct way is essential. Imagine that you recently gave some feedback to one of your area sales managers. You told her that her team meetings were running very well, but she needed to improve her presentation skills. You follow up a few weeks later and find out why she hasn't made any changes. You then discover that she didn't understand what she could do to improve. Your feedback simply prompted more questions. She was left thinking, what's good about the meetings and what's wrong with my presentations? When giving feedback, I found that the SBI feedback model is very effective. I've used it myself and have seen positive results. The SBI model helps you deliver more effective feedback. It focuses your comments on specific situations and behaviors and then outlines the impact that these behaviors have on you and others. Let me explain the model in more detail and why it's so useful. The SBI model has a simple structure. Situation, be specific about the time and place. Behavior, describe observable actions. Impact, what was felt and the results of the actions. When you structure feedback in this way, your people will understand precisely what you're commenting on and why. And when you outline the impact of their behavior on others, you're giving them the chance to reflect on their actions and think about what they need to change. The method also helps you avoid making assumptions that could upset the other person and damage your relationship with them. Let's look at each step of the model in more detail, starting with the situation. When you're giving feedback, first define the where and the when of the situation you're referring to. This puts the feedback into context and gives the other person a specific setting as a reference. For example, during Monday morning's team meeting. So that's a clear situation. Your next step is to describe the specific behaviors that you want to change or reinforce. This is the most challenging part of the process because you must communicate only the behaviors that you observed directly. You must not make assumptions or subjective judgments about these behaviors. These could be wrong, and this will undermine your feedback. For example, if you saw that a colleague made mistakes in a presentation, you should not assume that they hadn't prepared thoroughly. You should simply comment that your colleague made mistakes. You should be very specific about what the mistakes were. So again, an example. When you gave your presentation, you were uncertain about some of last month's sales figures and your sales forecasts were incorrect. Then the last step, explain the impact of their actions on you, the team, and the company. And so continuing with the same example, during Monday morning's team meeting, when you gave your presentation, you were uncertain about some of last month's sales figures and your sales forecasts were incorrect. I felt embarrassed because the CEO and the CFO were there. I'm worried that this has affected the reputation of our team. That was an example of constructive feedback, when you want to change someone's behavior. I never call it negative feedback because all feedback should have a positive intent. You can use the same model for reinforcing someone's good actions or behaviors. Here's an example of this. At the meeting with a customer on Friday afternoon, you ensured that the meeting started on time and that everyone had copies of the handouts in advance. All of your calculations and slides were correct, and each of the customer's questions were answered. I'm happy that you did such a great job and put the organization in such a good light. I feel confident that we'll win the account thanks to your hard work. So what are the next steps? Once you've delivered your feedback, encourage the other person to think about the situation and to understand the impact of his or her behavior. Allow the other person time to absorb what you've said and then go over specific actions that will help him or her to improve. The feedback might immediately be followed by a short informal coaching session. You could also set a time for a formal coaching session in the next few days to support the person's development. So in summary, the SBI feedback model helps managers deliver clear, specific feedback. SBI stands for situation, behavior, impact. To use a method, describe the when and where of the situation. Next, describe the other person's behavior, only mentioning actions that you actually saw. Then communicate the impact of his or her behavior on you and others. Finally, discuss what your team member needs to do to change this behavior in the future, or if the behavior had a positive impact, explore how they can build on this.